Up for sale is this 2009 Nissan Murano. You most likely saw the ad on Facebook. And before I even start going through anything whatsoever, this vehicle needs a rear subframe. These Muranos are kind of famous for two things. Number one is the CVT transmission, which I've taken very good care of and changed the fluid on it at regular intervals. And then also the rear subframe rotting out, which this one has done, despite the fact that I've had this oil undercoated twice. The rear subframe is completely fixable, if you will. The most easy way to do this is to purchase an entire rear end, which would include the axles, the brakes, calipers, the differential, as well as the rear subframe. There is a link in the Facebook ad to a few of them that I found in New England. And then the overall job is around 10 to 12 hours, depending on, I guess, your mechanical aptitude. It's just not a project that I can take on right now for this particular vehicle. So with the exception of that, everything runs and works extremely well on this car. Like I said, it's a 2009 Murano. It has about 125,000 miles on it. I've taken really good care of it since we've purchased it in 2019. At time of purchase, I think it had right around 70,000 miles on it or so, maybe a little bit more, but certainly in the 70s. So we'll kind of take a trip around it. I'll show you what it looks like. You can see paint's in good shape. Wheels are in good shape. There are summer tires on it right now. They do need to be replaced. This was kind of the last year of their viability. And then on the rear left tire, that is worn on the inside due to the trailing arm really no longer being attached to that rear subframe. As I said, that needs to get replaced. So as we kind of come across the front, everything's in pretty decent shape here as well. I have upgraded everything to LEDs. So you have LED lows, LED highs, LED fogs. I'll turn those on in a minute and give you a look at them. Front bumpers had a couple scrapey scrapes here you can see on the side, but it's not all that bad, honestly. All the glass is in really good shape. All the exterior, everything's in good shape. Wipers, obviously it has the vent visors on it, etc. This side of the vehicle is pretty good. You can see some waves right here on this side of the door. So there was, I think, something that happened in this. This was my mother-in-law's car for the last 5-6 years. So I'm not 100% sure of everything that happened. All I do know is that there is some stuff going on, and you can see it pretty well right here. The rest of it looks pretty good. You do have a little indent right here at the end on that fender. I think you can see it pretty well right there. Yep. Again, tires need to be replaced. The wheels are all in decent shape, though. I did just replace, I believe this was last summer, the front brakes. At the time, drilled and slotted was less expensive, so I did drilled and slotted rotors up front, and of course ceramic pads as well. You have a little bit of white road paint in there, but who cares, I suppose. Moving around to the back, everything's pretty decent. The only spot of rust that I can see on this whole vehicle, of course with the exception of the subframe, is right there. So that's the only rust that I've been able to see on the outside. So the rest of it's in pretty good shape. Rear end's good. Again, glass is good. Exhaust is good. That was recently fixed. Again, these things are kind of famous for this exhaust tip detaching itself. So that's been rewelded, I think, for the second time now. So it should have a few more years on it before New England eats it again. And then moving over to this side of the rear bumper, again, a little activity in the back there, but again, not too horrible that it maybe couldn't be repainted again if you really wanted to. Working our way into the interior. This is all black leather. Let me kill that beeping. So the vehicle is black leather. You do have push button start. I'll start it in a second. Again, about 125K on it. You do have a 6-disc changer here, reverse cam with tracking guidance. Everything works as far as the air conditioner and the heat. I just redid the AC this summer, actually, so the AC is blowing really nice and cold. You do have the 2 gigantic sunroofs, the panoramic sunroof option in this. It is an SL. So it has pretty much every available option for the year. You have Bluetooth up here. That was an aftermarket add-on for Bluetooth, but it does integrate to the actual stereo itself, so it sounds really good. Auto dimming mirror with home link, all that fun stuff. Everything in here is power. Auto up down for the front 2, rear 2 are normal. Go over to the back. same deal. Rear leather seats. You have the cup holder tray in the middle there. The third seat belt if you ever needed to use it. Again, that panoramic sunroof's pretty cool for passengers in the rear. Tons of storage in this thing. And I'll open up the trunk. We'll go through that real quick. It is not a power lift gate, but it's very light to open. So it worked really well for my mother-in-law. In the back, we have a couple things I've never used. So the rear tonneau cover, I think is what Nissan refers to it at, with a little bit of dust because it's been in storage. The factory Murano carpet mats, I never personally use those. This has winter mats in it currently in the cabin, and then you can see it's got a WeatherTech in the back. And then what was to be my next project, which was going to be spark plugs. At the same time, you should also replace the intake manifold gaskets, serpentine belt, and then I have 2 extra oil filters that I never got around to using. It does, of course, needs an oil change at this point. Rear seats are pretty easy to manipulate. You just pull these levers and the rear seat just pops down. So kind of handy if you need to load some stuff into it. But that's about it for the interior, I suppose. Engine's in really good shape as well. Again, about 125 on it. It runs extremely well. I'll pop that really quick and just kind of show really briefly. It's just your standard Nissan 3.5. It's never given us any problems at all. Doesn't use oil, doesn't burn oil. The one thing to note about these vehicles is that they do require at least mid-grade fuel for them to run correctly. It does call out premium, but I've used mid-grade and it's been pretty good. So the engine, with the exception of being a little bit dirty, is in great shape. This battery was just replaced this spring, I think, also to an upsized battery. So you can see 623. I replaced this and it was an upsized battery. So this has more cold cranking amps than what the standard battery would require. I kept up with air filters, cabin air filters, oil changes, brakes, all the things that you should keep up with. But again, New England paid its price, I suppose. So what the problem is right now with the subframe, and it's impossible to see really, but down here where all of the linkage attaches to for the rear suspension is a subframe. And that subframe effectively holds everything together in the rear end. So like I said, the axles, the brakes, the calipers, the differential, all those things, including the drive shaft, of course, is connected to the rear differential. Those are in jeopardy right now. One of the areas that it bolts to, and there are 4 primary attachment locations for the rear subframe, has completely rotted. So as you go at low speeds on bumps, you'll be able to hear this thing. So we're going to take it for a ride right now, and you'll be able to hear it. Jump in here. It is a push button start, but kind of weird. This was right before cars actually got their shit together. So you take this key, throw it in that little hole, and now you can push button start it. Kind of strange. So it still needs a key-ish, and then you have push button start. So you can see here about 125 on the clock. Gauge cluster does have a flaw in that the fuel gauge itself, the backlight doesn't work, but the needle works. So just to make you aware of it, everything on the screen works fine. We're not going to go in reverse, but just to show you the reverse camera. As is typical with older cars and also Nissans, the reverse camera is not the best quality in the world, but it'll get you where you need to be. All right, here we go. I really don't know if you could hear any of that clunking, but there is clunking to this vehicle. I'm just going to go down the road really quick. You can kind of see how well the engine, transmission, etc. all works, which is quite well. And I don't know if you'll really hear much clunking. The clunking kind of subsides as you reach speed. So it's really just a low speed, at least audible issue. Here we go. So again, everything works really well from a drivetrain perspective, let's say. Brakes work well. The front brakes are fairly fresh. I'll include a list or you probably already saw it in the Facebook link, to all the things that I've done over the course of time to this. Brakes were certainly one of them. I changed out the CVT fluid, like I said, at regular intervals, which was really the key to any level of longevity for these CVT transmissions that Nissan decided to infect their cars with during the early 2010s. But I've had no problems whatsoever with this because I've kept up with maintenance. Same deal with the diffs. So the diffs have had regular fluid changes also. We'll turn around here and maybe the clunking will be present, so I'll stop talking for a second. So not sure if you heard that clunking or not, but it's kind of a higher pitched, I guess, metallic noise. It is certainly metal on metal because the trailing arm is effectively hitting the wheel well / unibody right now. So it does absolutely make noise. To wrap this up, again, you can replace the entire rear end, which includes the subframe. The parts that I've found for this are usually in Massachusetts. There were a couple of them in Everett. Those are probably the ones that I'll link to. $700-ish, I think, is what the entire part costs. About 10 to 15 hours of labor. I will post a link to a video of just a normal guy on YouTube doing the fix. Not that dramatically involved, quite frankly. I just don't have the time or the space available to do that right now. So for the asking price of this Murano, I'm going to list it for $1,000. You drop, $700 into it, shop supplies, maybe another 100. You could have a really well-running, reliable, great in the snow Murano for under $2,000. So awesome, winter car, first car, again, after you fix it. There is no way to pass inspection with the way that it is now with that rotted subframe. Brand new subframes are also available on eBay. They are, of course, Chinesium, but that will fix the subframe itself, and then you could potentially swap over all the parts. That's not the way that I would probably attack this, because getting all of those bolts out for control arms and trailing arms and all that kind of stuff is probably going to be more trouble than it's worth. And honestly, the subframe on eBay is the same price or maybe a little bit more than just buying the entire rear end. So that's it. 09 Murano, 125-ish K on it. Everything works really, really well. Needs tires, and then, of course, needs the rear subframe / perhaps entire rear end replaced, depending on which way you wanted to go about fixing this if you were interested. Or use it as a demo car, or a Tour de Le Mans car. I couldn't care less at this point. But let me know if you have any questions. DM me on Facebook. I'm typically very quick to reply. Location is right near Keene, New Hampshire. So I'm about 10 miles south of Keene, New Hampshire. I border Massachusetts in a town called Richmond, New Hampshire. That's where the car is actually located. You can absolutely drive this thing home. You don't need to tow it if you don't want to, but you'll be doing it on your own place. So that's it. Appreciate you watching. Thanks.